Welcome back. Today is an autumn day, so I've got a really nice autumn dish. They are Toulouse sausages, so they're spicy and they're very meaty and they're pork. And then here I've got 5% mincemeat. They've made them into pretty shapes to make beef burgers, but that's fine. We'll be using those. And I've got about 500 grams of these, and I've got about 250 grams of this beef. Now, you can change that ratio slightly and go up to 1/3, 2/3, but if you have too much beef, it's not going to be moist enough. If you have too much of the sausage, then it's not going to be beefy. So I've also got 2 very finely chopped onions because they are very, very sweet at this time of year. I've got a small pepper I've chopped up, and I've got here 3 cloves of garlic and a piece of carrot. Not a great deal, just a little piece. And this is one of our very, very large eggs. Sometimes we get them. If there's been a storm, they do different things. And I've got a mixture of wine and water because that is a particularly strong wine. So I've reduced it a bit, but it's about 250. And then these are breadcrumbs. Now, any sort of breadcrumb would do, and you're using that to blot it up. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to fry all of these ingredients. And the idea is that we will slowly reduce the amount of liquid and get some sort of caramelization, make a really good flavor out of them. So you can see it's quite a pile of vegetables, and all of these are really good at this time of year. Your peppers are coming to the very end, so they're not really all at the quality of salad items. Now I'm going to turn the heat on, and I'm going to just saute it until it's nice and flavorful. Let's just move this around in the pan, and whilst that's cooking, I will prepare the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to get my sausages out of their skins. Any sausages would do fine, but as I say, if they get fattier, then you need less of them. You're trying to get quite a meaty but succulent meatball. Let's see if I don't think I can get them out like that. They do sell this as a mincemeat, but they're not usually as spicy as this, and I am relying on the spices inside the sausage to flavour the meatballs. And that's the last of the sausages. I now take the beef burgers. As I said, it's 5%. And so it's already beginning to smell nice. And what I'm trying to do is add flavour, sort of caramelize bits of it and get rid of some of the liquid in it, make it more unctuous. And this again will add flavour, but it'll also make them more succulent. All of that succulence is really going to help make them nice. A lot of these meatballs. They're either very, very fatty or they are dry and they rely on their gravy to give them that really nice flavour. Well, these will be delicious all the way through. So that's nice. Now, in here, I've got my garlic. And that's quite an important ingredient because you're double cooking it. And whilst the sausages do have some garlic, they don't have very much. And because you're going to be cooking it again, more than was expected, because they're going to be fried and then they're going to be cooked in the wine. So it really is a gorgeous dish. So I'm just going to mix this in a bit because I want my two meats together. This will feed a generous 4 portions. So I think you could probably get 5 people out of it. If you wanted 6, then give an extra starter, bulk your meal out a little bit. There you are. The meats are very well incorporated. I'm just going to wash my hands. Now, and that's what you're looking for, little tiny, little singed bits, little caramelized pieces, because these are very sweet. And this will give a lot more flavour to your dish over there. So I'm just going to turn them right down. And we're trying to get all of them soft, unctuous, and not so liquidy. So we're trying to reduce the dish a bit. Now, the frying pan I'm using has a very thick, heavy bottom, and I have got a lid, and that's important, that my lid fits quite securely. All of this dish will be on the top, not going in the oven, so it's pretty straightforward to make. And apart from this little bit of mixing, you really don't have a lot to do. You don't have to stand and stir while it's cooking with the wine in it. You just leave it for the full 20 minutes and it will be done. You see, I've got little brown bits, little singed bits, but nothing's burnt. It's just caramelizing nicely. Now, I've got the gas right down low now, and in a moment I'm going to turn it off completely. Now what I did, I used quite a wide-based pan in order for these vegetables to be quite a lot of them in contact at once, and that's helpful. It will just take longer in a smaller pan, but you'll still manage to do exactly the same thing because it's quite simple really. Now, whilst this is just steaming away at the very last minute, it's this that I'm going to add. And this in the hot pan is serving the purpose of blotting things up, which is really useful. Right, now I'm going to add this here. and just let it cool a little bit. That's why I've used a big bowl, because I don't want to get very hot hand. This egg will have to be incorporated, but you need this ingredient, this mixture we've been cooking, to cool a little bit, or else it will cook your egg before it's mixed in. So I'm just I can feel with my hand how hot the steam rising is. So you can see quite quickly. Also, you've got I don't know if you can see, another little thing I do is I can feel on the outside and it's still a bit too hot. The meat side is cold, but this side is hot. So once it gets a little bit cooler, I will be mixing it by hand. Then the meat will cool this even more. Then I will mix in the egg. Then I'm going to form my little balls and off we go. So whilst that's doing that, I'm just going to rinse out my pan and put the oil in. There you are. And I'm going to use this size ring this time. This is not as hot as that one. I don't want to overheat my oil, and I'm always cooking in olive oil. Yes, I know what people say, but I have seen the science where somebody actually tested how extra virgin olive oil was or was not toxic. And I can assure you, when they fried with it, it wasn't. And they did fry for quite a while. And they then tested, and it's not virgin anymore because it's been heated, but it's fine. And it produces a better flavour. But you can use any oil. Don't forget, where I live, this oil is really, really cheap. So it's cooling down quite rapidly now. So I'm now going to mix this. If your eggs are small, use 2, because I don't think you need the egg to help hold it together. But at that quantity and that ratio, you're not going to spoil the texture of your wonderful meatballs. So you can see it now looking quite good. If you haven't got a pepper, then you could use something else, like a grated courgette. You could use another vegetable, but you really want something that isn't too wet. So you would have to cook them for longer, but you definitely want your onions. You could use shallots or a red onion. That's fine, but you need onion because that is such a classic flavour in these. And it really is. I'm cooking it with the wine. Onion just goes so well with wine. And so does red meat. So there you are. Now, it's not room temperature even. It's very cool. So I'm going to add my egg. Now, and I think at this stage it still needs a little bit more. So there's 2 times where you can add it. You don't want to add too much, but it is serving a wonderful purpose. And here we go. Right, that's not a wet mixture. It's holding together really, really well. And now I need to make my balls. I think probably the sort of classic size of about a golf ball is really quite a good one on the plate. Takes slightly longer than doing a larger one, but it is worth it. That's a classic size, isn't it? And then I flatten them slightly. And that's quite important because it helps you when you're cooking them in the oil. Right, okay, that's lovely. These are the meatballs ready to go in. So now I'm just going to very, very slowly pop them in. You can see the oil is beginning to tremble, so you know it's nice and hot. And I'm just going to put them all in one by one. I'm just going to fill the pan up. These are now going to cook nicely together for about 5 minutes on each side. Maybe 3 minutes, depending on how hot the oil is and how many there are. Don't forget these will shrink rather than expand. There we are, we've got them in, just. But I really want them as tightly packed as I can manage. When I add the wine, it's going to need more space, okay? And because we don't want it to all boil off and then just turn into some sort of burnt mess on the bottom, that's when we add the lid. But I need to get these slightly hotter on the fry. I'm not cooking them too fast, but I don't want them to sit and boil. So it is quite important that we've got boiling oil to sit them in. I want them to brown, and then what I want to do is turn them over and brown the other side. When I finish browning, I'm going to add the liquid. And that's really going to be the basis of your sauce. Okay, I've changed it to the big ring because it disperses the heat and you can hear the sound is better. Can you hear? It's a sort of, it's a more of an aggressive bubble sound. They're beginning to look quite nice now. They're not cooked all the way through or on the top, remember? So we have to handle them very gently. But this will be one of the very first that we did. And you can probably see that it's starting to colour. There it is. I'm going to just flip them over. I want that beautiful colour on the other side as well, because all of this adds flavour. And now I'm not scratching my pan, I'm being really careful. I think I'm going to just turn the heat down a little bit. I'm not using any tweezer type objects because I'm frightened I'll squeeze them and ruin them and they'll all crumble into pieces, and that's not what we're looking for. I want these lovely balls to be sitting in something delicious. They're already looking good, aren't they, Paul? Very good. Now, I used no more salt and pepper than was in the original sausages. But if you like them very salty and you want that level of salt, then by all means add that to them. Another addition which is really nice is to add a small amount of something like soy sauce, because that would give it the salt and a sort of more of an umami flavour. But you're moving away from the classic autumn southern French dish. And this is a very classic dish, really, in many ways. You can see they have shrunk, but you have got steam rising up. Well, that is making them drier, but the oil that we cooked all those vegetables in is preserving the moistness and the succulence of them. So it should be a really delicious dish. I was thinking about the quantities and how many it would feed, and I think probably 5 meatballs is pretty generous. So it would feed 5 people. That's the sound you are aiming for. I don't know whether you can hear it well, but it's a particular, you've got the sizzle, of even bubbles, and you've got a few large ones going pip, 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 quite sharp. And that's the sound you're looking for. That will produce for you this colour. You don't need this quantity of oil. So what we're going to do, if I'd had a bigger pan, you could tilt it and spoon some of the oil out. You want some oil left, but you don't want this quantity. Or you can lift them all out, put them on the plate and take the oil out then. But either way, you need to reduce the amount of oil. Now, depending on how much your meat loses in the way of oil, and it just depends what vegetables you've used and how many of the breadcrumbs you've added. All of those variables will change how much oil is absorbed and how much is left over. So at this point, you could see, I think I've probably got twice as much oil as I want. So I'm going to get rid of some. It does smell really nice, yes, but it's going to smell even nicer in a little bit. I've reduced the oil quite a bit, but you've still got plenty of it left. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this in. You got it bubbling? And now we've got to put that lid on. I'm now going to reduce it right down. Now we leave that, and it will make its own sauce, and it will make it tender, and it will taste like heaven. And you will really enjoy this dish. It's really great for the beginning of autumn, when it's all a long way to spring and you're suddenly realizing it's over, the fine sunny weather. So we'll come back in 20 minutes and you'll see what it looks like. It's been about 15 minutes, so I just wanted you to see how it's progressing. And we've still got quite a bit of the liquid left, but it is beginning to look less liquid and more like a sauce. See? It's looking more like a sauce. If you wanted to thicken this when you've finished, all you have to do is add some flour, because you've already got some oil in there, and you can just add a little tiny bit of flour and make it thicker. But I personally prefer very thin sauces, and I like to mix them in with my potatoes, or you can serve this with crispy toast. You can serve it with tagliatelle, spaghetti, any sort of noodle, and it would be wonderful with rice. So you have a world of opportunities to add to this. These would go pretty well with anything. You can add them to steamed vegetables, but I think they're just lovely as they are. They do contain vegetable, and if you were to serve those after a vegetable soup, they would just be lovely on their own with some soft noodle. I just think they're wonderful. And that's what they look like. So let's just cut them open and see what we think. Oh, they are soft, moist, melt in the mouth, but they're not sausage. These are something absolutely magical. And the sauce has got all of the flavour in the sauce that you would expect if we had used something as strong as Marmite or an OXO cube or something really powerful. And it's just full of umami and savoury, and what a lovely thing to do for autumn. I'll let you have the other piece.
Somebody else would like one.
Nope. And don't forget, these will freeze. You can freeze these in small bags with your sauce, reheat them after work. You can have them reheated in a couple of days. They're really very humble ingredients, elevated to something wonderful. So enjoy.